Hello everyone, this is Richard from Modern Healthy Hong Kong. Welcome to Counterclockwise. Is it possible to turn back the clock psychologically and physically in 5 days? Part 1 of our series with Professor Ellen Langer of Harvard University. So Professor Langer is described as the mother of mindfulness since she studied mindfulness with a Western scientific perspective in the 70s, making her a very early pioneer in the field. In her studies over 4 decades, Professor Langer has shown that mental attitude can reverse the effects of aging and improve physical health. In this video, Professor Langer talks about some of her groundbreaking studies showing the power of the psychology of possibility, especially a counterclockwise study where a group of men in their 80s went to a retreat for a week to live as if it was 20 years earlier. After just 5 days, their memory, sight, and strength had improved. They were healthier, younger, and happier. I hope that you will find the study as fascinating as I did. With that, let me start the interview. Hello everyone, this is Richard from Modern Healthy Hong Kong. So our guest today is Ellen Langer, a professor of psychology at Harvard University and the first woman to be tenured in psychology at Harvard. She is the recipient of the Liberty Science Genius Award and 4 Distinguished Scientists Awards. She has been studying mindfulness for over 40 years and is the author of 11 books and more than 200 research articles written for the general public and academic readers on the subject. Her studies have showed that, among other things, mental attitude can reverse the effects of aging and improve physical health. Professor Langer, welcome to Modern Healthy Hong Kong. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me, Richard.
You're welcome, and thank you for joining. So, you did your most famous study, I think, was the counterclockwise one. And I just read the book, and it's amazing to see how just 1 week's change in the mindset and environment can turn back the clock of almost all the participants.
First, that I feel comfortable saying it's a famous study because The Simpsons, the episode of Simpsons Go to Havana, actually described the study. So the study is derived from a theory of MindBody Unity. And let me just briefly explain this. To me, mind, body, these were just words. And I said, let's put them back together. And if we do that, wherever we put the mind, we're necessarily putting the mind, the body. So what we did was, in the first study, was put the mind back in time and then take measurements from the body. We took a retreat that we had retrofitted to 20 years earlier and had men in their 80s and 90s living there for the course of a week as if they were their younger selves. They watched programs, movies from the past, yet discussed them as if they had just happened. Everything about it was reminiscent of the past. And we took lots of measures before we did this, and then measures at the end. And it was amazing to see the changes that occurred. And remember, this is only a period of 5 days. Their hearing improved, which I had never heard of an older person, even younger people's hearing improving. Their vision improved, their mental acuity improved, and in addition to other things, the photographs we took of them before and then after, we showed them to people who didn't know anything about the study, and we asked them how old they thought the person was. And those in this experimental group looked noticeably younger at the end. Truth be told, they didn't look 20 years younger, but still, they looked. And this was the first of many, many studies that we can talk about if you're interested. But the key to what's going on here is that we all have far more control over our health and well-being than most of us realize.
Right, and that was, I guess, one of the key things. And so that was your key takeaway, that we have better control. I mean, were you surprised by the result? I mean, because this was,
well, people always ask me that, but think about it. It was a tremendous effort. I mean, first of all, this was before Google. So when and we did this in 1979, so we were trying to replicate 1959. Now all you do is you ask Google, tell me about 1959. We couldn't do it then. It was a massive effort for us. So of course I believed it would work, or else I probably wouldn't have done it. We had an earlier study with a nursing home where we went into a nursing home and we gave people choices to make. just that simple,
Mm.
about when they wanted to see a movie. We gave them a plant to take care of, where they wanted to visit with friends. And that very simple sorts of choices, when we went back to the nursing home 18 months later, half as many in this group had died as in the comparison groups. That really helped usher in mind-body medicine. So I already had evidence that the way we think about ourselves, the world, the way we engage it, has very big consequences for us.
Right. Yeah, I remember. I mean, that was one of the key things you talked about actually in the counterclockwise, was that the participants had to like move their own cases, and the doors were open, so they had to make their own decisions. Which
Yeah, yes. And some of that, so I had my graduate student postdocs working with me again. This was before people fought for women's rights or whatever. Not fully fought, but and the reason I say that is that I found myself on the bus going to the retreat with 7 old men and 7 suitcases. And I didn't realize it. I didn't have any of my male students with me. And when we got to the retreat, there was no way I was a princess, a queen. I just was not going to carry their suitcases. So right from the beginning, I said to them that they're responsible for their old suitcases. Now, these are people who barely, could walk. I mean, they were able to walk, but they really seemed old. When they came to see if they could be in the study, their adult child, usually a daughter, came with them, answered most of the questions for them, and so on. So by all impressions, they were old.
right.
Yet here, by saying to them, you're responsible for your suitcase. I don't care if you move it an inch at a time to get it to your room, or if you unpack it here. Well, I mean, that was so vastly different from what they were used to. And that was for the comparison group. Now, this comparison group was not going to put themselves back in time. They were simply going to reminisce for the week. But because of that push forward, they also showed big changes and improvements in the course of the week, just not as many as the experimental group.
Right. I mean, it sounds almost like putting people in nursing homes is not a.
Well, there's a tendency to try for older people to make life easy. And you make it too easy, there's no opportunity for challenges, for feelings of mastery. So I used to argue, nobody listened to me, but that if we went into nursing homes and we made them a little harder, that it would actually be doing a favor for people. I was doing this television show, and I had suggested to them, this is 40 years ago, that they might want to open like this. They didn't. And I suggested this to many people since, nobody did. But it was, you have the camera and you're asking a person, wouldn't it be wonderful to have every need met, to have somebody taking care of everything you wanted in life and prepare, and then the camera goes to a nursing home, for people to realize, that's not really what I want. The struggle that we argue against, is really part of the essence of life.
Right. Yes. No, I absolutely see that. So the study was replicated in different countries, and we heard that one was in the BBC with some celebrities that I kind of remember actually from when I was in the
that
UK.
was the young ones.
Yeah,
And
the young ones.
what they did was more similar to the comparison group, but still showed very strong effects. And then it was replicated in the Netherlands and South Korea.
Right.
And which is nice because those are very different cultures, one from the next.
Yes, and you were involved with these. I mean, yeah.
No, not really.
Not really.
For the BBC, yes, that I was very involved. For South Korea, I just gave them a little advice over the phone. And the Netherlands never called me. They just did it, which is fine because it's out there in the public domain at this point. But then we went on using that same mind-body unity idea to do other exciting studies. So go fast forward to 2007, which is still now a while ago. We did a study with chambermaids, and it turns out if you ask chambermaids, do they get any exercise? They say no because they think exercise is what you do after work and they're just too tired. So we take these chambermaids, we divide them just into 2 groups, and we teach one group that their work is exercise. We show them that making a bed is like this or that machine at the gym and so on. So we have 2 different groups now. One thinks their work is exercise. One continues not realizing it's exercise. We take lots of measures. There's no difference on how hard they're working, how much they're eating, and things like that. But on the important measures, we get what we were expecting. We find that those who now see their work as exercise, just a simple change in their mindset, they lost weight, there was a decrease in waist to hip ratio, body mass index, and their blood pressure came down, simply from changing their mindset. We have lots of these studies. Another one, I'm strange, I know that. So when I'm in a doctor's office and they're giving me the Snelling eye chart, most people just take it, you go down the chart, the letters get smaller, you tell the physician what the letter is. To me, I say, wait a second. Here they're building in an expectation that soon I'm not going to be able to see. So go ahead and I do a study with my students where we reverse the eye chart. So now as you go down the chart, the letters are getting larger, thereby creating the expectation soon you will be able to see. And when that happens, people can see what they couldn't see before. For most people, you think you're going to have difficulty seeing around 2/3 of the way down the regular chart. So we start the chart 1/3 of the way down. So 2/3 of the way from that are much smaller letters. And again, people can see what they couldn't see before. And remember, as I said before, that in the counterclockwise study, we also got an improvement in vision. So many of us, we expect you go to the doctor, they give you a number, and then you just assume that that's true, which is, to my mind, silly. That if I'm hungry, I can see that restaurant sign much further away. In the afternoon, I don't see nearly as well as I do in the morning when I am fully awake and so on. So our vision, as everything else, changes. And at some point in this interview, I'll tell you about a series of studies with chronic illnesses where by attending to those changes, rather than mindlessly holding things still, people can heal all sorts of problems that now they only seek medical help in order to heal.
Right.
That's
Yes.
a tease.
Yeah. I had heard about this Chambermaid study. Do you think they were being more mindful in the way that they did their work?
Yeah, that's interesting. No, that's interesting. What the first set of studies testing the MindBody Unity idea were all taking advantage of our mindlessness. So let me give you an example of another one to make that. We had people who have type 2 diabetes show up for a study, and we were going to have them play computer games. And we told them what we want you to do is change the game you're playing every 15 minutes or so, and to look at the clock next to the computer. That was just to ensure that they'd look at the clock. What we had was for 1/3 of the people, the clock was going twice as fast as real time. For 1/3 of the people, the clock was going half as fast as real time. And for 1/3 of the people, it was real time. And the question we were asking was, would blood sugar level follow real or perceived time? And it followed perceived time. We had people in a sleep lab. They wake up, they see the clock says they got 2 hours more sleep than they actually got 2 hours fewer, or the amount of sleep they got. And again, biological and cognitive functioning seems to follow perceived sleep rather than real sleep. All of these things saying that our thoughts are very, very important to our health and well-being. Yeah, so then we have now, so that says that more is possible. But we don't expect people to go to a retreat, although that would be a nice business, live for a week as if they're their younger selves and what have you. But all of the first set of studies say, gee, we're not tapping into the resources that all of us have readily available to us. So then we have a series of studies where we look at chronic illnesses through the mindfulness lens. And basically, when one has a chronic illness, they're given the diagnosis, the expectation tends to be that things will either stay the same or get worse. Now, nothing goes in only one direction. There are always little blips. You know, sometimes you're a tiny bit better, sometimes you're a tiny bit worse. And the bottom line to this work is that if you notice when you're better, there's a hook, you know, something to hold on to actually go forward and improve. But we don't notice when we're better, because when we're better, we're just living. And we only notice when things, you know, so we did this with people who are stressed, depressed, who have MS, Parkinson's, arthritis, chronic pain, a host of disorders. And basically what we do is we contact these people throughout the day at random times throughout the week, and we simply ask them about the symptom. Is it better or worse than it was before? And then why? All right, now that does three things. The first, let's take stress, because that's so easy for us to understand. There are people who think they're stressed all the time. Nobody is stressed. Nobody is anything all the time. But when you're not stressed, you're just living your life, then you're stressed again. You know, it seems as if it's constant. So through this simple process of getting people to attend to the variability of their symptom, or in this instance, their stress, they see first, gee, I'm not stressed all the time, so they feel better. Second, by asking them, why now are you more or less stressed? That initiates a mindful search. And lots of research that I'm happy to discuss with you over the last 40 years shows us that this simple process of noticing new things, which is the essence of mindfulness, so the search for why now, not before, the neurons start firing, and all of that work has shown us that that itself is good for our health. And then finally, if you look for a solution, you're much more likely to find one than if you don't. So again, this process of noticing change, which is the essence of being mindful, is a way for us to heal even disorders that are seen as uncontrollable. We have, even with ALS, we have some very promising findings. It's also very good for caretakers. So, you know, if you're taking care of somebody with mild cognitive impairment, you just assume they don't remember anything. Well, nobody forgets everything. And if you start paying, you as a caretaker, start paying attention to what do they notice, what don't they notice, it's good for your mindfulness. And again, the neurons are firing, and that's good for your health. And it also makes the interaction more meaningful. You know, my father suffered from mild cognitive impairment right before he died, and I was visiting him in this home, and we were playing gin, and I'm saying to myself, because I know that he's in part lost it, whatever that means, should I let him win? And while I'm going through the, you know, trying to think, should I let him win or should I just be straightforward about it? He then says, Jim. He won, and it was all fair and square. And the point is that by noticing successes, not just failures, by noticing all the things people remember, we tend to have more respect for those people who have disorders like mild cognitive impairment, which then we respond to them in a more meaningful way, and they can feel that difference, and the interaction improves, the relationship improves. And again, that 40 years of research says that our physical health also improves.
Right. That actually sounds like it. Are you aware of an application for that? I mean, it sounds like an excellent application you could develop.
Yeah, we're working on that. We want it to be a little more involved, and but certainly you're right that we should put it out there in this way, and will at some point.
Okay, that would be excellent. I mean, something that.
I mean, we're doing this right now with ALS, right. And so we have that completely worked out. So it's a small step from there to these other disorders.
Right. You were working on a breast cancer one that was.
Well, yes. The initial thing you're probably referring to was a study where we were going to take women who have breast cancer, put them in a retreat, as with the Counterclockwise study, bring them back to a time before they had the tumor and see if they still have the tumor. This became a massive undertaking. Somehow we were doing it in Mexico and with our oncologists in and A.D. Anderson, whatever, and Harvard, and to get the institutional review boards of all these places to sign off, just taking forever, years. And so we put that aside. Now I'm thinking of doing it with virtual reality. So we take people who have breast cancer and we take them back in time, but not by having them live in a retreat, just through VR, and see if the tumors go away, which I believe they will certainly get smaller, if not go away. You know, part of the reason for this, Richard, is that when I was much younger, my mother at 57 died of breast cancer. But before she had died, the breast cancer had metastasized to her pancreas. And that's the end game. And then magically it was gone. And the medical world couldn't explain it. And I think the cause was psychological, and hence a career studying most of these things.
Right. Thank you all for watching. Professor Langer's study shows that the mind is much more powerful in affecting our health and well-being than most people realize. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell button for notifications of when new videos are released. It encourages us to continue to create more videos about anti-aging and extending healthy lifespan. Thank you so much for your kind support. In the next video, Professor Langer will talk about mindfulness and how it can improve all aspects of our lives. Please stay tuned. I wish you all well, and I will speak to you all soon.